when you pursue Jesus, everything in your life changes, including the way that you pursue relationships or other people. Oh, did you know that you were going to marry Brooks? I did not. It just was very orchestrated by only God himself, and I didn't see it coming. What I have fallen into a lot of times, and what I've seen multiple women fall into, is they start making excuses for behavior that's really not acceptable, but also really not fruitful. If they're telling you one thing on a date and then on social media they're doing another thing, that's probably an indicator that the fruit that they're displaying really isn't there.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Journey After podcast. I'm your host, Jordan, and today I'm back with my guest, Carlee Clark, which is so exciting. We're just like, she's amazing, so I wanted to have her back on again. We can definitely have some really cool conversations. And today, we're actually talking about something that hits both of us pretty close to the heart. And it's cool to see Carlee now on the kind of the end of the journey, but honestly, the beginning of another one, which is super inspiring for me to see how God has blessed her life, her marriage, and all that. And so today we are going to be doing kind of relationship questions, answering some things that a lot of people may be questioning within their own lives. I know that I've questioned within my life. So we're going to like kind of have a conversation with that today. So hopefully that is engaging for you. And I actually, at the end of this episode, we are going to answer some Q&A questions coming from you guys. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, welcome back, Carlee.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited. And yeah, I feel like, not that I obviously know everything because I still got a lot to learn, but I feel like it's something, relationships are just something that the Lord taught me a lot about early on. And I'm really grateful, not only for you, so I can help other people navigate or just teach other people the little sliver of what I do know or what I've learned, but just also describe the testament of God's goodness and God's glory and his character through everything that I've learned and through the redemption of everything. So thank you again.
Oh, I love that. No, Carlee definitely has a lot of wisdom in this side of things. I mean, watching her go through this beautiful experience of meeting her husband to dating to engagement to now marriage, it's just super like hopeful for me. Yeah. And I know that can be super encouraging for so many other women. It can be super inspiring even for like men to see how and what a godly father, husband, boyfriend, fiance should look like, and the traits that they should resemble reflecting the Lord, and how a good leader is supposed to fear God and what that looks like within a relationship and a marriage. And I think you now having that, it's a great way to show like what an example of that is. I know that's helpful for me. It can be helpful for so many other people. So I'm just really excited to dive into that. So I'm going to pull up some questions and we're going to jump right into it. Okay, so obviously you weren't always in a relationship and weren't always married. So as a woman going through dating culture in our time right now, how did you navigate that as a Christian, as someone who wanted to find a man who loved the Lord? How was that process for you? Like, where did you look? Did you go on them dating apps? Did you, just go up to a random person? Like, what was that like for you in that period of dating?
Yeah. So, big question, lot to unpack. Again, I know I say this all the time, but I'm going to try to keep it very high level. So one thing I will say that I want to preface about myself is I was never the girl who was like, I wasn't boy crazy, and the fact that I like was drawn to relationships from the beginning, like even before I followed the Lord, I wasn't like, oh my gosh, I need to be in a relationship. I would say I was actually the opposite of that, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more, but I had this idea of like hyper independency. And so that kept me, and a lot of pride, honestly, but that kept me away from wanting to pursue relationships altogether. But before I followed Jesus, there were a few times where I obviously went on dates or dated people, and that's drastically different from how I dated after I found the Lord. And I would say one thing that really stuck out to me is when you pursue Jesus, everything in your life changes, including the way that you pursue relationships or other people. You just begin to desire a lot of different things. And so the desires that I had for the kind of partner or person that I wanted to be with weren't just like, oh, they look good and they're funny.
Yeah.
And what I was drawn to beforehand was like, if they looked good, they're funny, and if they were chill, because I didn't like someone being all up in my business all the time.
Yeah.
I didn't like someone constantly like in my phone. And so when they were very laid back, I was attracted to that. And again, like obviously there's a physical attraction there as well. But when the Lord really became my whole entire life, I started desiring more of the characteristics that reflected Him. And obviously the Bible has a lot to say about different characteristics within someone who follows the Lord. It doesn't have a lot to say about dating. And so to put a cap on that, I just started desiring more of what the Lord described in someone who pursues Him, someone who's really seeking Him out in every aspect of their life. And when I found that, that's what I was attracted to. And yes, again, there is a physical attraction there, but it was more so like, how is this person living their life, and are they pursuing the Lord like alongside of different community, or alongside of or in their passions as well. Like that was something that I was drawn to.
Yeah.
How that looked. So I didn't go on dating apps, but I don't think that there's anything wrong with them. I think that that's kind of like a controversial thing, but I personally don't think it's what you're doing necessarily to find that person you're dating, but how you're dating.
Yeah.
So if you are going on dating apps and you're being promiscuous and you're not talking about things that glorify the Lord, I would say that you're in the wrong.
Yeah.
But I would say you're also in the wrong if you meet someone in person and you do that as well. I actually ended up meeting Brooks, who's my husband now, at the gym. And through some mutual friends, I just knew who he was. And I will tell you that it wasn't like this love at first sight thing. Like, people always ask me, oh, did you know that you were going to marry Brooks? I did not. Like, I'm still very surprised when I think about our first, I don't know, relationship. I guess not first relationship, but our first date, and how our relationship blossomed. I'm still very surprised that we ended up married. And it's not because we have issues or we were like crazy during our dating season. It just was very orchestrated by only God Himself, and I didn't see it coming. So yeah, I'm hoping that kind of answers the question, but how I dated him was a lot different than how I dated people in the past.
I think like one thing that was like kind of going through my head when you were sharing this was, when you are going on, let's say like a first, second date with somebody that you are interested in with, let's say that the woman is pursuing the Lord and wanting to find a godly spouse. Mm-hmm. And so on that date, what would you say as encouragement or advice to kind of find out if someone is being authentic? What are the questions that you should ask? How can you like fully understand and see if that person is walking in the path that glorifies the Lord and they're wanting the same thing? What's that timeline? Is it like one date and then they're out? Is it 2 or 3 dates? Is it dating them and then finding it out? Like what is your advice there?
Yeah, no, that's such a good question. Well, I would say obviously it depends, but holistically, the fruit will talk. And I think as a woman, and women in general, we tend to make excuses for the people that we love, and we always want to see the good in people, especially if it's a guy that we think is attractive.
Yeah.
And so what I have fallen into a lot of times, and what I've seen multiple women fall into, is they start making excuses for behavior that's really not acceptable, but also really not fruitful. And so what I will say is, you don't want to be too quick to dismiss someone, but you also don't want to be naive. And a couple of things that stick out to me is there's no guy, I mean, there's no woman who's ever going to be perfect. There's no guy who's going to be perfect, but his character and the fruit of his life will talk. So one thing that I think is really evident in a man who follows the Lord is his community.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to be plugged into a church, and he's also going to have godly community around him. Now, I will preface it by saying I have seen where great men of God who end up wholeheartedly pursue the Lord, especially during a relationship, are kind of getting out of friendships that aren't the best, but they will begin to desire more godly relationships and more godly friendships. So just because you might be dating someone, or you might be interested in someone who still has friends who are kind of like, not the best influence, I would say don't discount him for that, but look at who he's more drawn to.
Okay.
And if he's more drawn to his friends who are of the world rather than his community or friends who are pursuing the Lord, that would be a red flag. But again, time will tell with that. I will say that's a man who's pursuing the Lord leads in faith. So he's going to be one who leads in prayer. He's going to be one who leads in worship. He's going to be one who leads in church. And again, want to preface it by saying, especially men who are newer to their faith, I think that there can also be a hesitancy in the fact that they feel pressure of like, am I doing this right? Or especially if the woman herself has been into her faith longer, there can be a pressure aspect of like, well, is she leading me in my faith? Like, am I doing this right? Am I like really ready for this? But also at the end of the day, the fruit will talk. But what I mean by that is, over time, they will be persistent. They will continue to pray.
Yeah.
They will continue to bring you to church. They will continue to worship. And eventually those habits just grow. And so some of those questions that you might want to ask on the first few dates are, hey, what does your community look like? Like, where are you involved in church? Like, what do you do in your free time? How someone spends their free time is a great indicator of how they're living their life. Where do you feel like the Lord's calling you? What is the Lord teaching you right now? Like, just bringing up God and trying to see and understand where that person is at with their relationship is going to really be a telltale sign of if someone's pursuing God. And I want to be careful when I say that there's a certain timeline to that. I don't think that, by the first date you should discount someone unless they're completely living opposite of how you are. But if you're truly spending intentional time with someone and you're asking them deep and thoughtful, intentional questions on those initial dates, within the first month, I would say that you should have a great understanding of who that person is and how they live their life. And again, like I mentioned previously multiple times, also paying attention to the fruit. So if they're telling you one thing on a date and then on social media they're doing another thing, that's probably an indicator that the fruit that they're displaying really isn't there. But I don't want to put, like a specific timeline on it. I would just say spend time being intentional. And if you spend intentional time with them, especially weekly, you should probably know by a month.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so now, again, my brain is turning. This is a question that I have actually some specific friends ask me all the time. I ask myself this sometimes as well. Let's say you are dating somebody or getting to know somebody and, you met them not knowing, where their faith was, if they had a faith, if they believed in God, if they lived for the Lord. But you get to know them. They're a great person. They're very respectful. You guys have the similar values. They're not opposed to the idea of God and becoming a Christian, but they're not fully there yet. When would you say that you kind of hit the end of that running race to be like, hey, like, do I cut this off? Do I pursue this? I really like them. They're not against God, but they're not fully for him. What is your advice to those women that find themselves in that predicament because they're like, well, the Christian men that I have gone out with haven't treated me like this, and this guy is a really good guy and he treats me really well, but his faith isn't at the other side where I'd want it to be? Would you say that it's wrong for them to continue dating, or what would your encouragement be there?
Yeah, again, Great question, loaded one. So I'm going to try to break it up into pieces. One thing I will say, because I always thought about that. I mean, there was a lot of guys that I came across too who are great guys who I was attracted to, who I had fun with, but they weren't necessarily leading me in my faith. And I think one issue with that is now being married. Brooks and I have a great marriage. Like, we literally never fight. Obviously, we have disagreements, but there's no like toxicity in our relationship. But one thing I will say is that like initial spark of like, oh, you're attractive and oh, you're fun and you treat me well really can go out the door when like large problems in life hit. And I'm newly married, and there have been things that I have been so thankful to Brooks for and to the Lord for that I'm like, thank God, literally, thank God that I waited for someone who wholeheartedly pursues the Lord, because when life isn't easy, you need someone who isn't, oh, I might go to church. Oh, I might worship. Oh, I might pray. Oh, I might be open to God. Like, life gets hard, and you do need someone who is, no, we're pursuing the Lord no matter what. No, like, we're worshiping no matter what. No, we're praying no matter what. So I would say the issue with that is when life does get difficult, if you have someone who's kind of, I don't know if the word is lackadaisical that I want to say, but who is kind of inanimate, is that the word I'm looking for?
Or just
Isn't
like in
animate.
between.
Yeah, in between pursuing the Lord. It's like, I would be concerned about that.
So at what point, like, let's say they're not dating yet, but they're
Yeah.
going out on dates, before they make it official, is that something that like they should be completely certain about
Yeah.
before entering that relationship?
Yeah, I would say for sure.
Yeah.
Especially if that woman herself is pursuing God. I think if you're, as a woman, if you're pursuing God and you're dating a guy who is, on the fence about God, I would be concerned. And not in a way that's condemning, but just in a way of like, right now is the easiest time of your life in your relationship. Like, I'm not trying to say it all goes downhill from here. Like, life isn't great after you date and get engaged and get married, because it's amazing. But I'm just saying I would be greatly concerned for when things do go wrong, that you are now in a covenant and committed relationship with someone who isn't leading you. And I'm grateful for, again, me waiting for that, because now there's Sundays where I'm like, oh, I'm having a hard day. I don't know if I feel like going to church. I don't know if I feel like reading the word. And I'm thankful that I have someone who pushes me continuously towards that. Um, I also want to say, when you are dating someone and again, you're interested in them, they're kind of on the line or on the fence about God, you should also check your boundaries. Because I am going to say that if you're allowing yourself, obviously you can't help like an initial attraction to someone, but you can set up proper boundaries with someone, especially when you don't know their relationship with the Lord isn't in the right place, for it to not go further between you two. And really, like, that's protecting your heart, and that's biblical. And so personally, I would be very careful of how you entertain someone in a relationship with them when their relationship with God isn't in check. But I do want to encourage women, because this is how Brooks and I met. I had been following God for a while, and I had invited him to church. And I think he maybe went to church once, but it wasn't like he wasn't really pursuing God. But before I even went on a date with him, I was like, oh, you should come to church. And so he started coming to church, and what I heavily relied on was the church community and other men to help develop him. And honestly, I depended on God and I prayed for Brooks, but it wasn't something that I was going to entertain unless he made the decision himself to follow God. And once he did, that's when it became more than a friendship. But I wasn't like, you know, kissing him. I wasn't going on dates with him when his relationship with God wasn't in check. So I would say to invite everyone to church, especially if there's a guy that you think is cute, for sure. But it's not, oh, I'm bringing him to church. It's inviting him and then giving them the opportunity to take the necessary steps to start a relationship with God if they don't have one already. Another big thing I learned is it should be the men of the church helping another man develop his relationship with the Lord. Like, it should not be on the woman to remind the man to go to church. It should not be on the woman to remind the man to go to Bible study. It should not be on the woman to, remind the man to pray, whatever the case is. Like, give someone an opportunity to know the Lord, invite them, but don't pressure them, don't push them, don't say things like, well, I'll only date you if, because that's also going to be a faith that's based on
A relationship.
yeah, I mean, it's going to be, if someone is pursuing the Lord or is giving their life to Jesus because you said you won't date them unless they do, I'm still worried for you, because that's going to be kind of a false faith, which is also not going to withstand when times get hard as well. So I know that was like a lot of things jumbled, but I wanted to answer that as best as I could.
Okay, so kind of now moving from dating season to like engagement, and a little bit like at the end of the dating to going into engagement. Where did you see Brooks lead, and how like should we look for that in the end of our dating if we really are, looking to pursue getting married? What are traits that do resemble a God-fearing man leading and displaying that he would be a good leader within the covenant of marriage? What did that look like?
Yeah. So I can answer that easily. I would say Brooks and men of God are always very intentional. And I think any man who is truly pursuing a relationship with Jesus is not going to be wasting his time, and he's not interested in wasting your time either. And I think one thing I've seen that's super popular with our generation is people are so laid back, and I'm calling myself out about this because I used to be like, oh, I might get married. I don't know if I'll ever get married. Like, it doesn't matter who I entertain. It doesn't matter who I flirt with. Like, it's not that deep. And a woman and man of God are going to be very intentional with how they spend their time and who they spend their time with. So it's funny because there's people who are always like, well, Christians date and then they get married so quick. And yes, you should spend time getting to know someone, and being very intentful with the time that you take to know someone. But I would say what Christians are very good at, and the reason why they tend to get married quicker than worldly relationships, is because the time they spend getting to know each other is much more intentional than it is compared to the world.
Yeah.
And so one thing that Brooks and I did was, obviously we were setting physical boundaries, which is funny because so many people always ask me that. They're like, there's no way you didn't have sex before you're married. There's no way. And I'm like, honestly, it was really hard. Like, there were times that Brooks would leave and the next day he would tell me I had to go or walk around my house at 1 a.m., at 3 a.m. Like, it's just frustrating, especially when you're grown and you didn't do it right the first time because you just know what it's like. But we spent that time, instead of sleeping together, asking each other very deep and thoughtful questions, intentional questions. So therefore, the time that we spent, we got to know each other more than some of our previous relationships that we might have even been in longer. And so we decided to pursue a marriage after prayer and after, discernment and talking to our community, having accountability. Yes, but it was also a testament to the time that we spent together and how intentful we were. I know I'm kind of rambling, but to put a cap on that, men of God are going to be very intentful in how they spend their time with you. And just like you are watching them, they are going to be watching you and the fruit of your life and how you treat people who can do nothing for you, how you spend your Sunday mornings, how you spend your nights, how you talk about other people who aren't in the room, how you talk about yourself. So there are a lot of things that people are going to be paying closer attention to because they know the weight of a covenant marriage and they want to know that person fully before they make that commitment, versus people or men or women who date of the world who are kind of just looking at you of like, oh, you look good, you're chill, you're fun to hang out with. and I'm attracted to you because I'm lusting after you. Like, those relationships just look a lot different, and therefore they take a lot more time for someone to commit to you long term, because you're not intentful with how you spend your time with people.
Yeah.
So
That was good. That was really good. That's some good
thanks.
advice, guys. Okay. So I feel like this is also a question you kind of touched on, how Christians sometimes can look like they're moving really quickly, but really it's because the intentions are both the same and they're running the same speed in the same direction. So obviously I do know that your engagement season was really short. What do you think is that like should people be like, our engagement season should be really short? Is it okay to have a long engagement season? You know, where is your perspective on that?
Yeah. So I want to, before I give my opinion, I do want to say that I would encourage anyone who's engaged, looking at possibly getting engaged, whatever it is, to obviously make sure you're plugged into community and make sure you have accountability, and to take that question to like mentorship, because I do think that everyone's different, and I do think that there is sometimes a reason for people to have a longer engagement. What I will say is I do think it's rare. I know I'm going to mess this up, but I read this book one time, and it was from JP.
I know the outdated book.
Yeah.
So good.
And yeah, if you guys have not read that book changed Brooks and I's life. Like, after we read that book, we were like, okay, we're
It's
literally
a
going to get
tough
married.
read, though. I'm not going to lie. There's
It's
some of the
humbling.
chapters that I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. But he said something along the lines of like, he was essentially saying, your engagement time should be enough time to get a date set, get your friends and family there, and get things set for the wedding. And so for Brooks and I, we wanted a small wedding, and it was in my grandma's backyard. So there really wasn't
It was
a need.
beautiful.
Thank you. There really wasn't a need for us to have this long period of engagement, because there wasn't a lot for us to do. There weren't a lot of people there in general. And so there wasn't a timeline of everyone else that we needed to consider. And I think one thing that concerns me, that would be a question for someone who is considering a long engagement, is if you're looking at the next phase of your relationship as an engagement to take a quote unquote next step to get to know each other more, to like level up in your dating season, I think that's the wrong way to look at it. Because the second Brooks asked me to marry him and put a ring on my finger, I was ready to say yes to him. And I think sometimes, especially again, if people are not pursuing the Lord, they look at engagement as a next step rather than an opportunity to be ready to say yes. So if
That's really good. I have never heard that phrase like that
and
before.
That's something that Brooks and I had to learn. And so I would say, if you're just wanting a ring to, one, like show it off and to be like, oh, my man, we're committed, like this is a next step. It's like, yes, it's a next step, but it's not to show a new level of commitment where saying yes to someone is the next level of commitment.
It's just not giving you a new label to
Exactly.
call yourself.
Like, when someone asks you to marry them and you are given a ring from them, you should be fully confident that you are ready to get married to them.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. Not that I think long engagements are wrong. I just think it matters, and I would question the mindset of those long engagements. Like, what's the point? Especially if you're dating in a God-honoring way. Like, for us, we were like, we know we want to get married. Our wedding is going to be super small. It doesn't take long to plan. We also want to keep our boundaries. And we don't really want to continue to put our bodies through the stress of like holding those boundaries when you're not married. So again, I don't want to cap every couple under that umbrella. It's something they really have to take to mentorship. But that's what I would ask you is, are you going to be ready to literally marry someone when they give you a ring?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool. Okay, one last question, and we'll keep this one kind of short because we're going to wrap up, and then we're going to do all the questions from you guys and a little
Exciting.
part 2. So we're going to break this up so it's an easier watch. Okay, so last final question that I feel like everybody either asks themselves or does ask out loud is, how far is too far?
Yeah, see, this one's humbling because I'm right there with y'all. Like, I literally remember dating and I was like, but is this okay? But is this okay? And yeah, I want to preface this by saying, like, I don't want to be on my high horse. Like, I did not do everything properly, especially before I found the Lord. And again, this is something that I want to encourage people to take back to mentorship and take back to community, especially people that are holding you accountable. But again, it's taught to me like this: when your body is preparing for sex, it's too far. And so, if you're kissing someone and you're saying bye to them, you're probably not like, you're probably not getting ready. But also, if you're on the couch, laying up on them, starting to rub up on them a little bit, making out with them, you're probably going to be thinking thoughts of sex. And so, the Bible is very clear about purity, but it doesn't say, well, right when you touch here, or right when you do this, or right when you think this, or right when you feel this. So I'd say a blanket statement to keep yourself pure is when your body starts to prepare for sex for someone who you are not married to is crossing the line.
Yeah.
And that was just, again, something that we both had to think about. And it's different for everyone. Some people feel like that when they start sitting on the couch with someone. Okay, that's going to be a boundary for them. But it might not be the same for another couple who can, lay together on the couch and watch a movie. It really is. I think it's really dependent on the specific couple.
Yeah.
But that's why I would encourage someone to not just listen to me and what I'm saying or what you're saying on this podcast, but like get accountability and get in great community for you to work that out with someone who's outside of your relationship so they can help you navigate that in a way that honors God.
Oh, yeah. No. And it's so hard. Yeah. It is really, especially when you have walked through that door before.
Yeah.
Before meeting Christ. Like, I can say that as well. Like, it is really hard to kind of come back out of that room, close that door, and then lock it. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of community. It takes a lot of encouragement, accountability, all those things. But yeah, thank you for sharing all that. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing the wisdom that God has put on you and your marriage. So we are going to do a part 2. So this was, questions about relationships, marriage, dating. But in our next episode, Carlee is going to still be back and we are going to answer the questions that you have asked. So stay tuned for that. Like, subscribe, share. If you have questions yourself, reach out and ask them. It doesn't have to be about relationships or dating. It can truly be anything. Because here we talk about where we've been, but we don't focus on that because we're focusing on where we're going and where Jesus is taking us in our lives. So thank you for tuning in to the Journey After podcast. We'll see you later. Bye. If you want to be a guest, I would love to have you on and host you. Under the Connect drop down on my website at thejourneyafterpodcast.com, there is a form you can fill out that gets sent directly to me, and I would love to get connected with you. I am currently only doing podcasts in person, not virtual. I am in the Charlotte area, so please reach out, please connect. I would love to have you on and host you. And I know you guys all would love to hear more stories.